This meeting is being recorded. Welcome everyone to today's Haiku Workshop. And let's jump right in and see what we've got today. Okay, let me just rev these up for you. Okay, everybody seeing these? People seeing these? Good, okay. All right. Water, dark blue, moves to light, air. Water, dark blue, moves to light, air. Okay, talk to me, please.
I see it. I feel it.
Right? What do you see?
Well, I see the horizon on the ocean where there's dark blue ocean that's closer to me. And then as it gets closer to the horizon line, the blue of the ocean gets lighter. And then all of a sudden, the sky is also blue. So that transition from the water to air.
Okay. Is anyone else seeing the same thing or seeing something different? Okay. And there's no right or wrong answers here, so don't be shy. Don't be afraid you're going to give the wrong answer and get a bad grade, please.
I saw the same thing, but I always think of the horizon line as the darkest part, that sharp line before the sky. And so then I thought maybe it's another body of water, like a lake or something where the horizon line is closer, or I was thinking about it instead of seeing it.
Right.
For a little bit.
Okay.
Dean?
Yes. Yes, please.
I don't see the horizon as much as I sense somebody's actually looking down at water and they can see it being very dark at the bottom. And as it comes up closer to the surface, that it becomes lighter and then they're back in the air. And where they were all along. Yeah.
Oh, underneath.
Right. Interesting. Good. What is anyone else seeing? Anyone else? Was anyone not sure what you're seeing? Okay, it's very useful for us as raters here to get the feedback from our compadres and comadres, mostly comadres here. Did other people see different things, or is anyone unsure what they were seeing? I felt
I'm on the unsure side. Yeah, I'm on the unsure side.
Yeah, I'm a little on the unsure side too. My first impression was that this was a person under the water.
Wow.
And then coming out toward the light. And at the end, in the last line, they broke the surface and they came up into the air. That it's a movement from water through dark blue to light blue to air.
That makes sense.
It makes some sense. Hey, I'm looking for that because that would be a lovely epiphany moment at the end. That would be a real Kensho moment, as we've been talking about. That would be a suddenly or in this new, more expansive, more spacious place. But it doesn't seem to be clear to us as I mean, look, if we go back through the book, through the ones we read in the book, pretty much take any of them out of the book at random, and will we have this much disagreement or unsureness about what the basic situation is, the basic narrative situation, right? So I really like what I've sort of sensed going on here, but again, I was really emphasizing this last week, and I'm going to emphasize it if anything more so this week. So now we're all advanced students. That the basic narrative situation has got to be clear of speed bumps. It's got to be like, can we see it like it's a movie in our head? And then from there, extrapolate to the more expansive implications of it, the more expansive resonance of it. But we got to have the basic situation has got to be there. Okay. So I would want this. I would hope that whoever wrote this, I don't remember who wrote what, that they would work more with it. That it seems like there's a really interesting, this going from the dark to the air. It's something really cool and really worth working with and getting it clear. Okay. Okay, let's look at the next.
Dean,
Yes.
I just find it so fascinating that now that I'm really studying haiku, the nuance and the artistry behind it, which most people I tell them in this haiku class, it's just like it's 3 lines, but it's really become kind of a lens through which to look at everything. When I kind of really look at how we're unpacking.
Yeah, there you go. This is this is why, as a meditation teacher, as a Dharma teacher, I'm sitting here talking about haiku, because it's not just 3 lines. It's not what people think. People think it's 3 lines, 17 syllables. Like the jokey one. What is it? Haiku are easy, but sometimes they don't make sense. Refrigerator. Hey, 575. It's a haiku, right? Or some cute Hallmark card observation in the 3rd line or something like that. That's not what it is. And it's simple, but it's not easy. It's not easy because it's so uncompromisingly simple. It forces us to strip away unclarity, strip away unnecessary elaboration, strip away intellect, strip away sentimentality, strip away past and future, right? Strip away all our preconceptions, just get down, like, as we saw 2 weeks ago, Hemingway in his best moments, to the most simple, direct experience of what is. And that if we really do that, then the Kensho, then the transcendence inevitably will display itself from that. Okay, that's what we're going for. All right. Palms under the full moon, the roar of distant traffic, or ocean. Palms under the full moon, the roar of distant traffic, or ocean. What's happening? What's the narrative?
Funny, I initially actually thought palms of your hand, but then I remembered you guys were in California. I was like, oh yeah, no, it's palms because I can see them now. I just always see them moving. And then I'm unsure whether or not it's traffic noise or ocean noise, right? So it's got a nice visual as well as an aural thing going on, which feels kind of new for me. I think a lot of ours have all been mostly visual, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yeah, soundtrack here. Yeah. We have 5 senses at least, and yeah, we can use as many of them as we can. Did other people get that as the narrative situation, or get something else, or not anything?
I definitely got driving in Los Angeles from this. I felt like a real sense of place from the words.
Right.
I mean,
Good. Anything else?
I've been there, just white noise. It can be, it can be the traffic, it can be the waves on the ocean, just that.
Right.
So roar
Right.
is kind of an interesting word.
Is that the best word here? Is there a better word for it?
Is this one of those moments where you sort of want the reader to almost hear a roar, but you don't necessarily want to spell it out for them? So it'd be something a little less presumptuous, or I don't know, or sentimental, like you said. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see roar as sentimental. I see it as dramatic. And whereas usually when people are writing stuff, they're looking to make things as dramatic as possible. In haiku, you're generally doing the opposite. That's, if it's drama, you take it out. You understate till only beingness is left. Right.
So like sound, would you just say the sound of distant traffic?
Well, that would be an alternative. That takes out that does a nice job of taking out the drama. Then the question is, and there's not always clear answers to these things, but then the question is, does that take out too much? Is the reader still now going to hear the sound that the poet heard? Or can we go even further? Can we just say distant traffic or ocean? I think that's too far. I think that would be a speed bump for the reader.
Yeah,
okay,
roar,
so yeah, go ahead.
well, having been in that situation, it's not really a roar. Unless you're right next to the freeway. And if you're right next to the freeway, you're probably not right next to the ocean.
Yeah,
That
if you're right next to it, you know what it is. There isn't this question.
Right. But roar, your word dramatic is, so that white noise, it would be interesting to find another word.
Yeah. What is that word we're looking for? If you think of it, let me know. So this one is mine.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So as some of you know, where I live in Santa Monica, I've got Lincoln Boulevard, two blocks to the east, and the Pacific Ocean about a mile to the west. And so this was a situation. This was, Yafa and I were out for a walk around, 11 or 12 at night, which we do a lot. And and it was, yeah, the full moon over the palm trees, and there's that sound. And this happens to us quite a bit. Is it the ocean? Is it the traffic? Now, here's the interesting part of this is, if you think it's traffic noise, what tends to be your emotional response? You walk out of your idyllic little Santa Monica bungalow under the idyllic palm trees and the idyllic full moon, and here's all this traffic noise. Are you delighted? No. Okay. But if you hear ocean roar, are you delighted? Yeah. But it's the same sound. Or it's a sound that's similar enough that you're not sure.
I used
Right.
to think that exact same thing, because the reason I found you is because I was on the other side of Lincoln, the poor person's side. And just kidding.
Yeah.
And it was the same loud noise. And I thought, why don't I just manipulate my brain to think this is the ocean? And ever since then, I had no problem with it at all.
There's a kind of famous story that, if any of you familiar with the Buddhist teacher Joseph Goldstein,
Yeah.
I heard him tell this story once years ago about some friends of his. It was a little group of Buddhist practitioners who had bought or rented this house. They had just moved into it. They were going to have their little sangha in the house. And they moved in, and every once in a while they would notice, oh, they could hear this just a little sound of a chirping bird that seemed to be coming up from the basement somewhere. And every time they would hear this, they'd stop and go, oh, how delightful. Our new home has been blessed by some little chirping bird that's built its nest in the basement. How lovely. And then sometime, I guess, in the first week or so of moving in, they had to have the plumber come down and look at it. And the plumber comes up the steps and says, you got to change your smoke detector. It's chirping away. Right. So now suddenly that sound was not so delightful. Right. Can you see what a Dharma story this is? That there's the experience, there's the sound waves hitting the ears, and then there's the overlay, there's the mental interpretation of it. Right. So in a way, this haiku, from it's an echo also of that Joseph Goldstein story, but it's a real experience that Yav and I have had many times in the 10 years we've lived in this house. Now, having said that, I think I said this last week. It's always good to consider, if you've got something going with the haiku, try putting the lines in a different order. And just to see, better, worse, same, what changes. What if I said, palms under the full moon, the roar of the ocean, or distant traffic? Do you like that more or less?
Oh, much less.
Yeah, much less. Why, Judy?
Well, because you're left with traffic instead of ocean.
Exactly. It's deflating. You get the ecstasy, and then you get the agony. We want the agony and then the ecstasy. There's actually this connects with another story about Basho, the great first haiku poet. And he became famous for his new art form. And he had some disciples, some other young poets who were studying with him. And one of his students came to him with a haiku, and he submitted it to Basho. And I guess what we could imagine might be a workshop, something like this, the first such. And Basho reads it, and it says, dragonflies pull off their wings, red pepper pods. Okay. Now you've all seen those red pepper pods in in Szechuan food. What are those called? I don't know. You know what I'm talking about. So dragonflies pull off their wings, red pepper pods. And Basho says, no, 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 no. And he takes his brush and changes it to red pepper pods. Give them wings, dragonflies.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yes, suddenly it's beautiful just by changing this sequence, right? It's exactly what Judy was saying. We don't want to the deflate. We want see what happens now is in the last line, the pepper pods take wing, the poem takes wing, the reader takes wing, right? We're all elevated. There's the Kensho. Right. So that's I was trying to accomplish, a similar thing, but traffic, ocean. Okay. Now, interesting, when this first occurred to me, I had something, walking under the full moon. But in trying to strip it down, I took that away. But someone just now, I think Lisa, said I saw myself driving in Santa Monica. So there I lost some clarity. The trade-off in going for brevity was because I needed to be walking, not driving, because then it's a quieter, more settled, more meditative moment. And also that way you can hear them. If you're in your car, you're not going to hear it. So again, there's these trade-offs. We don't always know that there's one definitive right answer. Okay. Perched on the spindly pine, the falcon scans marsh and meadow. I blink, it's gone. Perched on the spindly pine, the falcon scans marsh and meadow. I blink, it's gone. Okay. Is the narrative clear? Is the situation clear?
There's a lot of clarity here.
Yeah, it's really, really clear. Yeah, that has really been accomplished. And again, that's got to be job one. Then we can get to the fancier, more subtle stuff after that. But we got to start with the facts on the ground have to be clear.
And it's also clear in its resolution. Like you think he's been scanning the Martian meadow and he's gone to have some dinner, maybe. I mean, I almost felt like, oh, I know where he went. Mm-hmm. So it was like even the action that's not described is clear.
Right. And we can't describe the action. You know why? We missed it. We blinked. We can't, you have to be clear not only about the situation, you have to be clear about the point of view. I said this last week or the week before, there's always a narrator in the haiku. There's an observer. The observer is often, I would say usually, more implied, or an implied presence than spelled out. Sometimes it's mentioned like the I here, that's fine, when we have to. But we have to be clear about the point of view. We can't report on seeing something that we don't see. There's another, again, going back to Hemingway, right back to Farewell to Arms. There's a scene in the book early on where the narrator, Frederick Henry, this young American who's there in World War I, serving in the ambulance corps with the Italians. And he falls in love with this young English nurse, Catherine Barclay, and they go on, have this passionate affair, blah, blah, blah. But this is early on when they're new. And they take a walk together in the dark. And he, at a certain point, he kisses her, and they've never kissed before. And clearly he's just impulsively kissed her. And then what it doesn't say next is she slapped me. What it does say is something like, I felt a stinging flash and tears came to my eyes. She had slapped me. All right. I felt the stinging flash and the tears came to my eyes. She had slapped me. Why does he say it that way? When Hemingway is always going for as much simplicity as possible. She slapped me is much simpler. Why does he have to do it that way? Why was that the correct solution to that sentence?
It's very visceral. You can feel it. It's immediate.
Yes, yes, and something else. They're in the dark. He can't see her slapping. What is the sequence of actual experience? The sequence is there's a stinging flash. He doesn't know what the hell has happened. There's a stinging flash. He realizes, what? Then tears came to his eyes. Then he realized she had slapped him. He realizes it half a second after the fact. So that half a second, he gets it in sequence. He's giving us with just this fine precision what the narrator has experienced. Right? So that's why I'd say, what's going on in this last line, in that sense, it's correct. You can't say, while I'm blinking, it flies away or something. You can't see it. I blink, it's gone. That's really bringing us into the skin behind the eyeballs of the narrator, into the experience. And then that it's gone. You see the Ken show there? Right? It's the absence of. This is like a meditation. We're paying attention to meditations that use an object, like they use a mantra or something. And what happens is you're paying attention to the mantra, and then the mantra at one point fades, it disappears, and you're just left with the silence. So here the falcon is like the mantra. So yeah, some really nice stuff going on here.
I really like the this one for also putting the falcon line in the middle. I'm like now a fan of sort of like luring you in, like, hey, what's perched on the spindly pine? Could have gone multiple ways. It could have been a little wren, or it could have been a frog ready to leap off, something.
Right.
I don't know. And then
Right.
it's the falcon, and it kind of pulls you in a little bit with that, like that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And falcons, and I feel that this writer really observed this. And you have to, I cannot emphasize this enough. Don't start with an idea. Don't start with words. You're making it much too hard on yourself. Start with an actual experience. So we have to be paying attention to do this. This is like what Lisa was saying. The fact that now we're actively engaged in writing haiku changes what's going on the other 23 hours and 59 minutes of the day. Excuse me, because we have to pay attention. We have to be on the alert for our haiku moments. Right? And collect them like butterfly hunters with the net. Right? You have to be on alert for those moments. A falcon, speaking of alert, falcons are very alert. These are hunting birds. These are birds of prey. It's different from a wren, not only in its size, but in that, that concentration of a predator that is on the alert. There's nothing else like it. It's so silent.
It also feels a little bit like,
yes.
So the falcon scans Martian meadow. I blink. It's gone. Not only is the falcon gone, but the focus is gone. The moment is gone.
Yeah. Well, the moment it exploded into its climax of Kensho, and then it's gone. That's the way I'm saying. Yeah. Is there anything we would maybe want to consider, any way to tweak this one? One thing I would ask this writer to consider is the falcon scans marsh and meadow. Marsh and meadow. I wonder if that's more than we need. First of all, I wonder if that is realistic. Well, let's just put it this way. Let's try it. What happens if we just say the falcon scans the marsh, or the falcon scans the meadow? Marsh and meadow makes me wonder, is this really all happening in the moment? Right? Or is it, from where from sitting there on the spindly pine, can the falcon really see both marsh and the meadow? Maybe. The other thing about it that kind of is a little bit of a bump for me is the alliteration here, the two M sounds, marsh and meadow, which of course we do all the time in other poetry. But here, under the unforgiving glare of the haiku light, it's a little bit decorative, right? And we want to, and our impulse in haiku should always be, anything that's decoration, try stripping it away. See if the thing gets better. See if the thing takes off better. Even if the falcon really was, you start with the actual experience, but then you're not completely stuck with it, right? And if the thing works better without the marsh or without the meadow, then okay, let's go on. Oh, now we seem to have two versions here. Okay. My boot skids on wet, cold quartz that glints in mud. The fighter jet breaks the sound barrier. My boot skids on wet, cold quartz that glints in mud. The fighter jet breaks the sound barrier. Okay, and now we've got what I guess is a later version of this. Boot slips on wet rock. The quartz and tree root sculpture glitters from the mud. Boot slips on wet rock. The quartz and tree root sculpture glitters from the mud. Okay, how should we do this?
If I just look at the second one,
Yeah.
and I take out the word sculpture.
Yeah, why?
Sculpture feels like an idea, it's an imposition.
Yeah, is there really a sculpture lying there on the ground? A literal sculpture? Can someone say yes or no? What do you think?
Negative.
Negative. Yeah. There's no freaking sculpture lying there in the mud. No. So that's literal. Right? No metaphor. Show us what is. Not what it's like or what you could imagine it to be, or right? Show us what is.
So if I take that out, boot slips on wet rock. If my boot slips, I'm going to look down, because I just lost my footing. I'm going to look down, and then I see something that's, I wouldn't necessarily know that it's quartz, but, I see something that's glittering and a tree root.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it took me there.
Yeah. So that's a lovely moment, isn't it? What we think of as a problematic moment. Oh my God, I'm slipping on the wet rock here, and then whoa. Okay, that's nice, because life is full of whoop. and we don't always get the whoa.
Yeah, that makes sense. And Lisa, to yours, what if you swapped the bottom two lines where boot slips on wet rock, maybe something, you know, glitters from the mud, and then you find the quartz and tree root. Maybe it would be like, oh, and then you bend down. I like how you just helped me go through the process of looking down, and then I think then maybe the person picks it up, or the yeah.
Yeah. I'm not completely clear on the business of the quartz. What are we
Okay, so
seeing?
this is mine. So I
Mhm.
walk in a park that's part of a quartz quarry. So there
Mhm.
is quartz everywhere, and it is so slippery, but it's really beautiful because it's all sparkly, and so it's an unusual place to start with. So that's what that is. And I appreciate your sculpture comment. I find it really difficult to write in the 575 format. And I was really trying to do it in the second version. The first one is the one I wrote in my head when I was walking. So I really appreciate your comments, but the quartz part is clear to me because I walk in it all the time.
Right.
But I can understand that you might think, you know, because it looks like
Cynthia,
quartz.
were you absent when we said forget about 575?
No, but I actually was, I think I was trying to do some in that original format, just as
Uh-huh.
an exercise, but I will stop because I don't like it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. No, and the thing is the form is, writing haiku is already incredibly challenging
right.
without adding the structural challenge of 575. So make it easy on yourself. As
I will.
and in general, that 575 is not suited to the English language. It's suited to Japanese. The Japanese has a completely different rhythm, completely different music. And it's not even really 575 syllables in Japanese. It's more, I forget the word in Japanese. It's a little more elemental entity. It's something called, it's more like what we call phonemes. And also they have something they call cut words, which essentially they're the equivalent of punctuation. So it's like, you say dot for, when you get to a period, or, whoosh, when you get to a comma, something like that. And they count those among the 17. So forget about 575. Short, and leave yourself open to the possibility that maybe the second line is a little longer than the others, but don't distort things, don't pad things, don't go through gymnastics to make it happen. That's advanced. I can't do that. I can't do that and make it look natural. Let me just say something quick, because we got to move on to other people's, but I just quickly want to say something about this last line here. The fighter jet breaks the sound barrier. What's the actual experience? What is the observer's experience when the fighter, what happened? What did you experience that made you think? Because this is a thought. Oh, it's breaking the sound barrier.
Actually, there was if you've ever heard or seen The Right Stuff, when Sam Shepard breaks the sound barrier, there was that cracking sound when I was in this park, and I couldn't believe it because I'd never heard that sound, and a commercial jet can't make it. But I live in a place where there are military jets. And I later found out.
I heard it, growing up, I heard it a lot. They call it the sonic boom.
Sonic booms, right?
Yeah.
So,
but
it's illegal.
I got to move on to other people's here because we're running out.
Sure.
But let me just say quickly, can you see like what you were trying to convey here is a very cool thing to convey, but the language that you were using is way too abstract sounding.
Okay.
It's okay. Yeah. Okay. Let's move on. Here we go. Bowls, knots, late, early, Dinner. Bowls, knots, late, early. Dinner. Well, that's fun. It's definitely fun. So what's going on here? What are you getting as the situation?
That word knots
Okay.
confuses me. I mean, it
Yeah.
feels like you're getting ready for dinner. There's the bowl, somebody's going to be late, somebody's early, or I'm late. I
Mhm.
gotta hurry up.
Yeah. What are so that word knots is a speed bump for the reader here, isn't it? It looks like the writer is onto something interesting. Uh, um, I like that word knots. It's a good knotty word, but I don't quite know what's going on. I mean, unless in the context of dinner, it's what do you call those? What did they have those at Italian restaurants, like bread knots or pretzel knots or?
Hmm.
That's what I assumed. Yeah. I figured there was either some type of like plate that was called a nut that I just wasn't aware of,
Hmm.
or it was like a pasta that had little
Yeah,
balls of something like a gnocchi or something
yeah,
that they always have.
yeah. Maybe something like that. Something like that. I mean, it's interesting. There's something interesting going on here, but it's not quite the focus is not quite clear. Again, the narrative situation, simple narrative. Again, don't start with an idea. Don't start with words. Start with the experience, and then make us see that. Job one, be clear on the experience. Job two, make us see the experience. Job three, do that in really stripped down, minimalistic language, free of abstraction, metaphor, decoration, sentimentality, et cetera, et cetera. And job four, hopefully squeeze some kensho out of it, probably out of the third line. Occasionally the first line, usually the third line. Now, in this case, I can see the writer here felt, okay, dinner. There is some sense of kensho there, isn't there? Because that's where the is, right? That's where the I get a sense here of maybe people filing in for their meal, and some are late and some are early, and there's some sense of busyness and confusion, and finally you get to sit down. Here I am with my right. So there's some sense of that there. If we could get it a little clearer. For one thing, okay, for this writer to write this, to be writing about dinner, he or she, they were seeing something, some particular, what was in front of them? Salad, soup, grilled cheese sandwich. Again, this is playing with it. Might be too many words, might get too detailed, but consider going for more concrete. If you say, and maybe it was I don't know, maybe it was a fillet of fish and a vegetable and that there might be a point to change it. Make it bowl of soup, which has a nice, more simple, rustic, Zen kind of feel to it. Soup. You see, that's much more concrete. The late, early, if whatever's going on there, if in fact it's people filing into the restaurant or the kitchen or whatever it is, some late, some early, some confusion. Can you make that clearer? Can you make that more concrete? It may be that to do that, then we start running into too many words, and you might start covering too much time span. So it might even be something like after the cafeteria line, soup. Something like that. So it's brought down into that one moment. It's we want more of a snapshot, less of a movie. Right? Because haiku is giving us that sense of moment. But the big thing is we've got to unknot this word "not" here. We've got to find out what that is. Find a clear.
It's I don't know that it really. I see some real contrasts, which may not be in the haiku, but a bowl is something very open. It's a receptacle, whereas a knot is something all tied up and contracted and compressed.
Yeah.
I mean, that is not necessarily haiku, but that it just occurred to me, just, something that's open, something that's not, all compressed and contracted. And then the contrast between late and early. So that there's a rhythm there between kind of polar opposites. It's interesting.
And Lisa, I think your impulse is right there about contrast, and haiku is often very much about contrast. It's very characteristic of haiku to have there's something big and something small, something loud, something quiet, something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue. The something maybe the microcosmic, something macrocosmic. Remember there was that one that we read some time back about, where the evening sun was refracted into the glass object, the glass bowl or something sitting on the table. So you had the great, big, and the small. So yeah, absolutely. I sense that same thing, that openness of the bowl and the knottedness of the knot. And it does seem to echo in the contrast in the second line. Maybe the way to do this one again, to execute this first contrast, which is really, it's more interesting to me than the second one because it's concrete. The second one, a little more abstract, a little more generalized. And because it'll probably take more words to explicate what's going on with the bowls. Is this the sack of bowls coming from behind the cafeteria, next to the trays, or is this the bowl on your table, or what? Maybe make that clear, make the nut thing clear, and then we're not going to have room for what was going on in the second line. And maybe we just focus on that one contrast and have the more concentrated energy of that. And then maybe this dinner is the most effective way to say that, or maybe there's a more effective way that's more direct, more, we take the first spoonful, or, the steam rises to my nose, or something. So that maybe instead of telling us, it's the old, like rule one of writing in general, they say show, don't tell. And it's really the case with haiku. So maybe instead of telling us that it's dinner, show us, so, not this many words, but show us the steaming soup, come into my mouth. And then I'll feel dinner without you telling me to feel that. It's very challenging. That's why we're doing it. Okay? Okay?
perhaps the bottom line could have been
Yes.
aroma of sweet food or something.
Yeah. That's more concrete. How can we be more concrete yet, more specific? What's the food? What's on the plate or in the bowl?
Dinner.
What's for dinner? What's on the menu tonight? It can be anything. We're writers.
Right.
We're,
Right.
we're writers. We get to play God.
Salmon.
Salmon. Okay.
Salmon.
Salmon. Okay. Now, can you see how different that? Yeah, go ahead,
So
Judy.
It makes it more concrete, certainly.
Exactly. Concrete.
Aroma
specific.
of salmon.
Mm-hmm. Now, is there a shorter way to say aroma? You got any synonyms? Anyone got any synonyms for aroma?
Smell, scent.
Smell.
One
Scent.
syllable versus scent or smell.
Scent.
Right.
Aroma.
Right. So,
freed and released.
all things being equal, if we have choice between a short word and a long word, pretty much anywhere in your writing, but certainly in haiku, you pick the short word. The Anglo-Saxon word, we talked about this. The Anglo-Saxon word stock before the Frenchies came in 1066 and mixed it up with all their polysyllabic, Latinate French words. Aroma, that's Latin. Smell. Scent or smell.
Scent.
Yeah. Or maybe you're resisting smell
Salmon,
because it smell sounds more funky. That's why I like it more. And
salmon smell released. Salmon smell free. See the to tie it in with the knot.
Mm-hmm.
Salmon smell. I don't know.
Judy, what's the knot?
Well, everything we get is covered in plastic, and it's knotted. And so dinner can be really late or it can be really early, depending on how long it takes you to unknot the plastic. Because it's tied into knots, the apples, the oranges, everything is tied up into knots.
Now I understand. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a
It
it's
was
a very
the first time I had ever written anything, and late and early didn't really, but it didn't matter whether it was late or early because you've got all those knots you have to untie.
Right. So it's a very interesting experience. It's very specific, and I love the situation that there's that sense of the frustration of there's your dinner, but you got to get through this knot, and then right now the kind of inherent problem with sort of you're kind of biting off a lot here in, so to speak, in choosing this as the thing to convey, is it's so specific to your living situation that your other readers here have probably never experienced that, and so in a few words like that you're not going to be able to convey what it is.
Convey it, yes.
Yeah. And so we're gonna be puzzled. So it's it's kind of in, and you have to be ready for that. You may what's the line in the good book? Many are called, but few are chosen. You know, may have many of
Right.
these haiku moments that work for you experientially, but then which ones you'll
Mhm.
be able to execute in language that will convey the same experience to the reader. There's going to be sometimes a high attrition rate. But this is the first thing,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
first writing we've done here. This is fantastic. This is You're off to
No, it
a
was
great
fun. I
start.
had a couple of others, but
Yeah,
there again, it wouldn't be, it would be specific to my situation
yeah. Well, I
living
would say
here,
for
you know.
so Duty, I would say for next time, try to find of those something that you'll be able to can be common enough in its
Uh-huh.
experiential elements or relatable enough, or again, you know, you can play God a little bit and maybe change or simplify the situation into something that the rest of us can get. And
It can, yes,
yeah, and
right.
I'm looking forward to what you do for next time, as I am for y'all.
Yes,
So
good.
okay, it's we're past time here. So
So
thank you
I'm out
everyone
this
so
week,
much.
huh?
You-
No
Oh, we
Scott
didn't
this
get
week?
yours?
We could do it next
Scott,
week if you,
Scott, did I not get yours? Did I not read
We
yours?
sent two. We sent two too, Dean. We'll just do them all next week if you
yeah,
want. I'm happy with
Yeah,
that. We're
okay.
fine.
that's
Yeah,
fine.
we're
You're doing it next week, right?
yeah.
Yeah, I'll need
Scott,
a
I'm sorry.
signed contract.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
okay.
fine. I
Yeah.
just am asking, you're going to do this next week, right?
That is the plan as of now. I have to check my calendar, but if it's not the next week, it'll be the next week.
All right.
As I say, there's a lot of busyness, so I have to look at the calendar at the beginning of every week.
Yep.
But in any case, there will be another session, probably next Sunday. If not, should be the following Sunday. Just look for the newsletter in your mailbox Tuesday morning, and I'm sorry if I it sounds like I missed yours somehow. So just send along. Okay. And you know what? Do this. When you send your haiku, put it in the subject line, right? Haiku for next session. Put it in the subject line. Don't do it as a reply to the
I just
newsletter, which, yeah, a few people
Yeah.
did that,
right.
and
I
that
just
makes it,
put haiku.
yeah, okay, that's good. Haiku or haiku for next session might be, yeah, or haiku for June 13th would be the best, actually. So I don't get them mixed up with last week. Me getting mixed up is all too easy to do. Okay. And
I know that, Dean.
again, best not to make it as a reply to the newsletter because I might miss it that way. Make it a fresh email. Okay. So everyone, thank you so much. May all beings swiftly penetrate the kensho of every moment, and kensho, which is really the manifestation of their own being. How the hell did they overlook it? How the hell did we overlook it? Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have
A
fun.
quick
Thanks, everyone.
question. Am I the only one hearing a crackling mic the whole time?
Now we had it over here too.
Okay.
I was
Yeah,
thinking it was our connection.
Really?
You got a crackle in your feed there.
Wait, hold on a second. Let me check something.
I think it may have been
Is
Sister
it-
J's. It may have been Sister J's, Mike.
Is it better now?
No,
Is
it's
it
still,
No.
no.
Okay. Huh. Okay.
Why would it have been mine? I wonder.
You know what? Let me try muting. I'm going to try muting Judy, and we'll. Did that
It can
change
mute
it?
all of us.
Did that?
Or mute everybody and see.
Okay. Okay. Did that improve it?
Cynthia is still
Not-
unmuted.
No, Cynthia's muted. Huh, this says you're all muted. But okay, this says you're
Still
all muted.
crackling. Still crackling, yep.
Okay, I don't know. Okay,
See you
See
next
us.
time. Thank you.
enjoy. Have fun.